الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأصحاب أجمعين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, once again we thank Allah for the opportunity to engage in this important topic, Tibb Nabawi, which is a topic very important for the mind, body and soul. It speaks about well-being, it speaks about connecting the abd to the Creator through the fitrah. The Prophet ﷺ taught us that we have been created upon a fitrah, upon a natural way. And Tibb Nabawi teaches us to connect with that natural way in order for us to fulfill our purpose to the best of our ability. So the topic is Sunnah nutrition. And we began by saying that Sunnah nutrition is not merely about certain prophetic foods. Yes, the prophetic foods and the foods mentioned in the Quran has many scientific benefits, healing benefits. But alongside consuming those foods would be adopting the entire Sunnah, which is the adab, the etiquette, which revolves around everything we do. And last week we looked at how our eating behaviors affect digestion. Today we're going to start and we're going to speak about the physical and spiritual harms of our eating. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that there is no vessel that is worse when it is full than the belly, the stomach. It is enough for us to consume just a few bites to satisfy our hunger. If we wish to eat more, we should consume a third of the belly for food, a third for fluid or water or liquids, and the third for the breath. So in this hadith lies numerous jewels. The remedy for all illnesses can be found in this hadith. And we find today in nutritional medicine, the quantity that we eat has not fully been appreciated. We find that modern medicine would be consumed or obsessed with what we're eating and the nutrients involved, but not enough attention is paid to the amount of food that we consume. And when they do pay attention to the amount of food, they can't find the ideal quantity. However, the Prophet ﷺ taught us a perfect formula. So for us to have appreciation of what this means, we have to look at the process of digestion. So digestion begins long before the food reaches our mouth. In actual fact, when we smell the food, digestive juices and enzymes start to be secreted. Whilst the food enters the mouth, we start biting and chewing. Ideal bites would be 10 to 20 bites per morsel of food. When that food is broken up into its right size, it moves through a process called peristalsis, where there's smooth, rhythmic muscle movements, taking that food gradually down the esophagus to the belly. At the esophageal sphincter, we find the food enters the belly calmly. Once it enters the belly, there's different digestive juices, enzymes, hydrochloric acid, gastrin. Various substances are secreted in order to allow that food to be broken down further. As the food enters the intestine, we find that the body absorbs the food and takes the necessary nutrients. Whilst this is happening, there's various other organs contributing to it, like the pancreas, the liver, the spleen. When food gets absorbed through the microvilli, which is hair-like structures that takes food and the micronutrients and absorbs that food into the blood, it gets transported to the various parts of the body for energy, to improve the condition of the nervous system, etc. Then the food moves through the colon where water is absorbed. So all the water that's needed for the body gets absorbed from that food. Manufacturing of vitamins take place until the food is completely deprived of all goodness and you're left with a harmful substance that has to be expelled. So I gave a brief, very simplistic description of digestion. But from that description, we can see how intricate the process is, how important it is that the process be regulated and facilitated properly. How important it is to follow Tibba Nabawi, which attaches the sacredness to the meal. Because when we adopt Tibba Nabawi, it teaches us to slow down, to recite, to sit in good company, to eat slower, to chew our food, to use 3 fingers. All of this facilitates that digestion works optimum. So we go back to the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ informed us that if we wish to eat to our full, it shouldn't be more than 1/3 food, 1/3 for water, and 1/3 for the breath, for air. What happens when we go against the hadith? So let's look at, think about Sunday afternoon. Sunday is the Sunday roast and the biryani pot. So what happens? We eat the first plate, and that's sufficient for the body. However, we want a bit more, and we go a bit more. When we go past the 3rd food, and we go for the 3rd bakkie of trifle, so the belly is completely full. So there's no place for drink, but we drink anyway. The stomach is a boot-shaped organ that's muscular, therefore it can expand. So that stomach will expand as much as it needs to. So when you eat more than your full, the intra-abdominal space that is meant for breathing is decreased. In other words, the tummy is starting to take over the lung area. So you start to breathe shallowly. So instead of taking proper deep breaths, you breathe with the upper part of your lung. When that happens, you inhale less oxygen. So you're taking less oxygen to the brain and every organ. What happens then? Fatigue settles in. So you become drowsy, you become tired, and you become lazy. And the waqt of Asr, it becomes a bit hazy. So you stood up that morning for Fajr, all ready for every waqt on time, but due to Sunday lunch, the Asr waqt became hazy. And you felt sleepy, and like that fellow, you ended up on the couch. And then you said, okay, I'm going to defer the Salah, and all excuses came in. Today I'm practicing the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa, which says an hour before Maghrib instead of Imam Shafi, which I usually follow. So why did this happen? So the books of Tib goes further than the physiological explanation. The physiological explanation tells us why we become tired. Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah says that when we become tired, the mind becomes fatigued and our thoughts are clouded. So we struggle to differentiate between good and bad easily. So things that we will be very strict on, we tend to let it slide because we're in a state of lethargy. The books of Tib also explains that when you overeat, it means that the food came down in too big of a chunk or big chunks, so the body's digestion enzymes that take place from the mouth right down couldn't keep up with it, so there's a backlog of food. When that happens, that food becomes poisonous in the blood. It becomes harmful substance. It blocks further digestive enzymes from reaching the food. So that food that was meant to be nutritious becomes harmful. Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah goes further and he said that when harmful substances circulate in your blood, the shayateen and the evil forces have a better hold over us because there's a type of filth in the blood. So beyond the physical harm that overeating causes on the body, there's a spiritual harm. Imam Ghazali, in his book Al-Ihya Ulumuddin, the book on the revival of Islamic knowledge, he actually says that all of man's illnesses of the heart, greed, envy, lust, originates in the belly. Because he said the first mistake that our Prophet made, Nabi Adam alayhi salam and Hawa in Jannah, was to eat more than what was required. So they ate from a tree because the Jannah gave them enough. But Shaitan diverted them. So they gave in and they ate more than what was required. And from there, Imam Ghazali links filling the belly to every illness of the heart. He says that once the belly is full, then the need for unlawful sexual desire occurs. Once that need is fulfilled, there's a need for dunya, for amassing of goods. Once that is fulfilled, there's pride that settles in the heart. Once pride is in the heart, then there's envy of what other people have. And Imam Ghazali links everything behind each other, but he says that it begins with the belly. He says if the belly is not filled, then the other desires are decreased. Therefore, we find that the quality of the awliya were that they were in a state of fasting often, or they ate minimally. Why is it that during the month of fasting, we are more pious people? Every person's level of taqwa is raised in the month. Why? Because the belly blocks us other times. So when the belly is empty, the mind is clear. The belly is a huge distraction in our life. So when the mind is clear, we perform our salah to perfection and we are thinking about our Rabb as opposed to lunchtime. So definitely the books of Tib talks about the importance of controlling the belly, which is a very difficult thing, especially in today's time where we live in a time of mass consumption. But Imam Ghazali teaches us on how to approach this. He says, start with one morsel of food, less a day. So in other words, start with a sunnah fast. And when we come to the section on elimination, we'll speak about fasting and the miraculous breakthrough in scientific knowledge about the fasting. So definitely, if you think about your productivity, your energy levels, metabolism, there's definite benefit in consuming food according to the Prophet ﷺ's recommendation. To eat a third food, a third water, and leave the third for air. Because if you do that, you maximize the benefit of your food. When we go beyond the recommendation, food becomes a poison. So literally in the blood, when we overeat, it can be detected that there's increased levels of cholesterol, increased levels of sugar, increased levels of uric acid, and all the byproducts of what we eat. When we consume food, the body takes the good of it and it expels the rest. When there's an overaccumulation of the rest and the body cannot expel it correctly, it circulates in the blood. Therefore, we find that Tibba Nabawi bases all illnesses in the belly. So every illness condition is linked to the belly. And today in nutritional medicine, there is a nutritional advice for every type of illness condition. So when we look at the Sunnah, we see that the Prophet ﷺ recommended certain types of foods. And every type of food that he recommended is a natural type of food, meaning it grows from the earth. And he loved consuming food in its simple state. And we find Tibba Nabawi recommends single foods for illness conditions. A certain vegetable will be given for illness condition. We find that the famous Hakims in Pakistan and India, there's one famous Hakim, a couple came, they flew all around the world coming for a remedy because they knew that he was good at what he did, at his work. And they've been to all the clinics around the world, and because they had an infertility problem, they couldn't conceive. And when they came to the Hakim, he said, eat one date a day. And they looked at him and said, a date? Is that what you're telling me? We came all the way around the world and you're telling us we must each have a date? One date every day? And within a year's time, they sent him photos of the newborn baby, showing that there is barakah in single medicine. However, our bodies have to be conducive to it. So we find that the people in the rural areas, they can obtain healing from certain fruits, vegetables, and spices because their diets are simple. But the people of the city, because our diets are complex, we require complex mixtures of medication. So in order for us to benefit from the prophetic sunnah, we have to have a new appreciation for fruits in their wholesome state. The Prophet ﷺ spoke about the importance of having fruits in season. A hadith is mentioned that when the first fruits, the first crops or harvest of any season, you would take the fruit and you would make a dua over the fruit and give it to the children, linking the period of renewal to youth. and he would speak about the medicinal value of fruits. So you'll find the use of citrus fruit appreciated for the aroma because the smell is uplifting, it's purifying. Tiba Nabawi makes use of the peels, of the pips, of the rind, of the flesh. There's remedies for every part of the fruit. Dates, we find it's seen to be as one of the most complete foods on earth. It has all the B vitamins that's needed for the proper functioning of the nervous system. It's a natural laxative. If you suffer from constipation, fresh, fleshy dates first thing in the morning can assist you. It's the most energy-rich food. If you're looking to get energy in the day, consume good quality dates. We find that the ajwa date is said to be sowed specifically by the Prophet ﷺ. Therefore, it contains high medicinal value. The dates are used to increase libido. It is used to increase heat in the body, to facilitate digestion. Dates used in different forms can be used for different things. Dried dates can be a good supplement for sugar. Dates thrown in milk, honey, and banana is a perfect energy drink. Perfect for Ramadan as well. We find the Prophet ﷺ loved grapes as well. Grapes today is known to have high, what they call flavonoids, antioxidants. Figs, the best remedy for constipation. And we actually have to appreciate the fact that we live in a place whereby we have fig trees at home. If we talk to our elders, they'll tell you that they grew up with pomegranate, figs growing in the backyard. Today we buy them at the shop, in the refrigerator. But the best figs is the figs that you pick from the tree that you nurtured. Hand-picked, sun-ripened, organic figs has medicinal value that cannot be understood and mentioned or comprehended completely. Because modern science is ongoing and trying to make sense of the natural world. But there's definitely a return to the natural world. So therefore you find globally, people are returning to this type of foods. So whilst developing countries rushing to the Western diet, we find that the modern countries, after their research, they're resorting back to the fruit salads and the soups and the broths and the halims and the curries and the bunchi curries and the tomato breadies, and because there's high medicinal value in there. Pomegranates. Scientists are still marveling at this fruit. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that this fruit is from Jannah. And in the pomegranate, it's known to be contain the highest amount of antioxidants. Within the body, cells are being made every day. Due to what we're exposed to in terms of chemicals, pollutions, what we eat, sometimes these cells are replicated or produced incorrectly. So constantly our bodies are actually making cancerous cells, bad cells, but the immune system fights those cells off. Now, antioxidants assist the body to fight off those cells. So antioxidants are like the fuel to kill off harmful cells in the body. So pomegranates has been noted to have the highest level of antioxidants. It has a good level of fructose, which is fruit sugars, and it's also said to not raise the diabetic sugar level as much as other fructose. So we know that diabetics shouldn't have high sugared anything, even fruits, but pomegranates can be well tolerated. So in prophetic medicine, you'll find that sweet pomegranate will be used for some conditions. Sour pomegranate can be used for diarrhea because it's called astringent, so meaning that it can help the belly or the intestines retain water. So the objective is that we won't cover all the remedies per fruit, but we have to get or gain a new appreciation for fruits. So when you're holding an apple in your hand, understand that that apple with its skin, everything of that apple can produce so much benefit to your life. When we eat fruit with the skins, we find that the skins nourish our skin because that skin also faces the sun, harsh elements, bacteria. So we find that if you consume the skin of fruit, obviously the edible fruits, it benefits you. The Prophet ﷺ consumed raisins. One sunnah that he would do would be to soak raisins overnight in water, consume it the next morning. Today in Tibba Nabawi, this is used for UTIs. So urinary tract infections, it's soaked overnight, and we found that raisins soaked in water has a diuretic effect, meaning it increases urination, so it helps the body to expel the waste. Very important to realize that when I mention it's a remedy according to traditional medicine, it doesn't mean that you should go home and use that in place of other medicine. Understand that if you are not consuming a diet that's pure in nature, prophetic medicine cannot benefit you as much. Therefore, you might need the more complex mixtures. However, everybody who adopts the Sunnah will feel benefit straight away. So your benefit of prophetic medicine is directly proportionate to the amount of prophetic medicine in your life. So not only consuming the items, but the manner, the niyyah behind it, reciting. Remember, we said that Tib Nabawi teaches us that the entire Sunnah is medicine. Adab is medicine. Medicine is not confined to a tablet or a pill. It's encapsulated in the entire method that the Prophet ﷺ taught us. We find that berries, quince is also a big part of the Sunnah. Prophet ﷺ loved vegetables. So remember, when something grows from the earth, the closer it is to its original form is the best for you. Beetroots, it's a good remedy for anemia. Beetroot, the same color like blood, has a high level of iron in it, high level of B vitamins, calcium, it has minerals. The Prophet ﷺ was particularly fond of squash, cucumbers, everything of the pumpkin family. And the one narration is that the Sahaba invited the Prophet ﷺ to enjoy some soup, and the Prophet ﷺ would look out for the squash on the side. And the Sahaba said that since that day, he grew a love for squash, and he always consumed it. If you look at squash, you'll see that it's 90% water, so it's good to cleanse the kidneys and the bladder. Squash is also high in flavonoids. All the orange color fruits, so butternut, peppers, carrots, is very high in flavonoids, and flavonoids helps to increase the body's healing ability. Cucumbers. The Prophet ﷺ was also fond of vinegar. In one narration, he came home and he asked Aisha radiallahu anha, what is there for supper? And she said, all we have is vinegar and bread. And the Prophet ﷺ said, what an excellent curry or gravy vinegar makes. So we have to ask ourselves a question, will we give that same response to our wives when we come home? No curry, only vinegar. So in his adab, the Prophet ﷺ appreciated the simple things. He never criticized food. He appreciated what he had, and that increased the medicinal value of that item. So remember, barakah is something that's attached to anything when practiced the way the Prophet ﷺ did. And when we do that, we increase the efficacy of it. We increase the full potential of that meal. We find the Prophet ﷺ liked coarse bread. Bread with a lot of roughage. So some might say that, but in the Prophet's time, there wasn't fine bread. Yes, there was. There was fine flour. Because you have different levels of society, so the rich enjoyed this very fine, easy on the digestive tract bread. But the Prophet chose the more rougher bread. And he chose not to cut the bread, he chose to break the bread. Because when he consumed food, it was something that was very social and something that created mahabba amongst the Sahaba, so they would break and pass on. It wasn't a thing that, in today's concept, when you sit at the table, it's not good manners to speak. In actual fact, that's against the Sunnah. It's not good to chew and speak, yes. But in the hadith, eating is a sociable thing. Numerous hadith is mentioned whereby actually some of the lengthiest hadith is given over the supper table. So the Prophet ﷺ would discuss matters with the Sahaba because eating is a social event. When you don't talk to the person next to you, you're actually confined to the food and the nafs take over. But the social thing helps to curb the nafs, it helps to create mahabba. So he loved the roughage. So we find today in modern medicine, the roughage assists the GIT to rid itself of waste. So good fiber is needed for good bowel movements. Very important to note Whenever sunnah medicine is given or prophetic food and it doesn't agree with your body, don't consume it. Because if you consume something that is harming you, that's against the sunnah. So yes, the sunnah medicine is very generalized, but it also takes specific tolerance into consideration. So if you know something is sunnah, but somehow when you consume it, it doesn't agree with you, that means the body is telling you something. Don't force that down. That's also what the sunnah teaches us. It teaches us to be very subtle, very sensitive to what the body says. When you're eating something and it's causing you to bloat, to burp, to pass wind, to sweat, to become uneasy, your body is telling you something. So if you do not take the message of the body and avoid that food, the body will tolerate it until it gets worse. So you're consuming something that is highly difficult for your body to digest and you continue it. So the body gives you minor signs. It starts with a burp, bloating, there's stomach cramps, but you continue to eat this every day, it will affect the stomach lining. What happens? The body increases hydrochloric acid to try to help itself to digest that food. That starts to harm the stomach lining and you could develop an ulcer from a simple message that you forgot, that you chose to ignore. So Tiba Nabawi teaches us, be sensitive to your body, because we have what we call a doctor within. The body's ability to heal is amazing. When you cut your hand, it's not the betadine or the iodine or the plasters or even the stitches that heal. Allah inspires every cell in his hand to reconnect, to create a seal that no laboratory can reproduce. So there's a wisdom that is in our body, and Tiba Nabawi teaches us to align to that wisdom by following the natural way. When we go against the natural way, we endure harm. But Tiba Nabawi teaches us how to come back. The Prophet ﷺ ate cheese, and he loved T-bone steak. So all the males are getting happy. The Prophet ﷺ loved meat. In actual fact, he loved the shoulder cut, the boat. That was his favorite portion of the meat. However, he ate it minimally. So he said he loved it, but he ate it the least, giving us another principle of nutritional medicine, that curb your cravings. Because what you love the most will be to your detriment. So we find that you love a lot of sugar, you exhaust the pancreas, there's not enough insulin, you develop diabetes. You love a lot of greasy foods, you overindulge, the liver cannot cope to get rid of it, high cholesterol in the blood. So likewise, so enjoy that momentarily. So have it once a week. Spoil yourself now and then. When you practice Tiba Nabawi, it teaches you that you can actually have everything in moderation. Because the Prophet ﷺ enjoyed all types of food. However, the bulk of his food was from natural sources. So today we know red meat is extremely harmful when consumed too much. There's different grades of red meat. The best meat would be lamb. Lamb is said to be heating and moisturizing. It has a lot of moisture. It's easy on the digestive tract. One of the toughest meat to digest would be beef. So you find that beef is a very tough meat. The Prophet ﷺ actually spoke against overconsumption of beef. Spices, something that is part of every culture in Cape Town, especially the Muslim culture. And we grew up with spices. We grew up in homes where spices were ground physically. And a pot of halim would take a whole day to make because they would grind it. But that taste that you got from there can never be matched. Because you find today spices are adulterated. And there's research going on worldwide in modern laboratories on the healing ability of spices. Turmeric, that we know as bori, jeera, cumin, coriander seeds, black pepper. Every spice is being studied and is being recognized to be anti-cancerous. It fights off cancer cells. It fights off bacteria. So while we're rushing to the burger and fries lifestyle with tomato sauce, the rest of the world is discovering the medicinal value of spices. So understand that connected to the Islamic culture is a cuisine, recipes that's connected to Tiba Nabawi as well. Because as Tiba Nabawi, as Islam spread from different nations, it embraced the traditional systems of that nation. So spices was always a part of cuisine. And spices grow in the same locality, spices used freshly. So therefore we should revive the sunnah of using spices and growing it at home. Have pot plants on your windowsill with dhania and parsley and basil and use it in your food. There's nothing more rewarding than using food that you hand-picked. And it has a positive spin-off. Studies have shown that individuals that's involved with planting or gardening has better feelings of well-being, better coping mechanisms. Studies have shown that's why you'll see that in high-rise buildings, they try to fill it with greenery. Because the mere presence of a pot plant that you're not even looking at has an effect on your chemistry. So in high-rise buildings, in modern buildings that's made of steel and glass and modern finishes, you'll always see lots of investment going into plants. And plants that grow lush and that's very green. Because the sight of the plant, the presence of the plant has an effect on you. It cannot fully be measured scientifically, but the effect can be measured. That people that's sitting in an office block with no plants are highly stressed as compared to those that are sitting in a plant-rich environment. So grow plants at home, connect with the earth. The model of Medina is a model based on agriculture. The black seed. I remember when I wanted to do a scientific study on black seed at university at the microbiology department. I wanted to do a study on the antimicrobial effects of black seed, how black seed fights off bacteria. And when I presented it to the professor, he went online and he told me, you know what? They have tackled black seed over and over. There's no more angles to tackle black seed. It's established that black seed has medicinal value. In actual fact, when I looked online, black seed used for treating flu in chickens or koi fish. So the medicinal value of black seed is well recognized worldwide. Black seed is potent in its heating qualities, antimicrobial qualities. It can dissolve phlegm. It's called habbu sauda, habbu baraka. It is called the seed of blessing. Therefore, do not consume black seed in abundance. So we find what happens is we're having an excessive diet, so a Gatsby on one side and a pot of black seed on the other side. We're trying to cancel the two out. It's not going to work because the Prophet said that black seed is a cure to every illness except death. And we don't doubt the words. However, that statement is connected to a sunnah. So if you're living your life to the sunnah, that black seed becomes medicine to you. So an ideal way to use black seed as an immune booster would be to crush 7 seeds in a teaspoon of organic honey daily. So that is a good immune boost, especially for children. Very important that children now more than ever faces heavy immune depressing diets. Sugar for one. White sugar depresses the immune system. It makes the white blood cells sluggish. It creates an environment of acidity that allows bacteria to thrive. It is extremely hard for the body to overcome white sugar. But sugar in a fruit form, in the form of honey, dates, is tolerated much better. So this modern white polished sugar is extremely harmful, and we find it in everything. So we know that when the parents have parties for their children, there's high sugared snacks. If only we knew what we're doing to the children's pancreas. A child cannot have an entire packet of sweets on their own. We're overstimulating the pancreas. The pancreas is working hard to get rid of its sugar, and after a while, the pancreas will shut down, and that child will develop diabetes. Therefore, we find teenagers developing diabetes. So understand that nature produces enough good tasting food. But what happens when children are born? We introduce the Western diet to them, which they're not inclined to. Whatever you put in front of the child, they will eat, and it becomes habit depending on the parents' guidance. Children are naturally inclined to nature, to pure things, and we have to keep it that way. The Prophet ﷺ spoke highly of olive and olive oil. He said that we should consume the olive oil, the whole olive internally, and we should use its oil externally. And today, enough studies, olive oil is proven to be a heart-protecting food. Studies done in different populations, those populations that consume olive oil in abundance have lower incidence of heart attacks. So definitely if you have a heart problem, substitute your oils with olive oil. So oven bake your vegetables. When it comes out of the oven, drizzle it with olive oil. Add olive oil to your foods, to your salads. It can be added to breads. It's the perfect supplement to foods. Consume olives also. When you consume it with a niyyah. What tini wa zaytun? Why did Allah choose to start to take a qasam by the fig and the olive? There's definitely medicinal value. There's definitely a greatness in this food. And today, scientific studies cannot emphasize enough because daily olive oil has been recognized with this. For some, olive oil is an effective remedy to fight off head lice. Cradle cap. There's some children that suffer from cradle cap, and pure olive oil applied on the head can eliminate the cradle cap within a matter of 2 weeks. We find the Prophet ﷺ loved milk. And in Tibba Nabawi, milk is also seen as a food and a drink. The best milk to consume would be goat's milk. But you also have to take into consideration that the milk that the Prophet ﷺ enjoyed is not the milk of today. The milk that we have today could be adulterated with hormones, genetically modified. So cows are mistreated. Remember, Tibba Nabawi is all about adab. When animals grow in their natural habitat, according to the sunnah, so they're well cared for. They're given the right food, they produce the best food. When they are bred for the purpose of capitalism, for money, to improve, to increase economy, you find that the niyyah is lost. And the milk becomes harmful. So in our society, we have different tolerances. There's some of us that can handle milk, but there's some that cannot. So be aware that we cannot generalize with the consumption of milk. There's some people that develop lactose intolerance. Also important to note that when you're young, your body is strong, the doctor within can fend off many illnesses. So what happens is we tend to eat the way we want to. When we become older, we realize that our choices we made 10 years ago is manifesting in our movement, in our productivity. So now we try to make changes. The changes you make then will benefit you, but not as much as it would a few years ago. So know that Tibba Nabawi teaches us about investing in the future as well. It teaches us about preventative medicine, as we know that prevention is better than cure. So to practice the sunnah every day is actually improving your immunity. So chocolate sundaes and barfi and jalebi and all the sweet meats. What does the sunnah say about that? The Prophet ﷺ had a sweet tooth. He loved sweet things. He loved honey. But like we said earlier on, he ate it in moderation. So Tibba Nabawi doesn't tell you to throw out certain foods. Today we find some diets that says cut this out completely. Yes, there are individuals that need a tailor-made diet. But when we look generally, Tibba Nabawi say you can enjoy everything in moderation, and when you eat it according to the sunnah, those foods become beneficial to you. But if you have specific illness condition, of course, for a diabetic to overindulge in sugar is very harmful. It's actually a self-destruction type of manner. But we live in a society that doesn't cater for the diabetic people. We have weddings that only have sugary foods, cholesterol foods, high blood pressure causing foods. So as a society, we have to change. We have to, when someone is diagnosed with diabetes or high blood pressure in the family, the entire diet must change. There's not one person that has to follow it. In actual fact, the ideal situation is to call in the entire family and screen everybody. Because that teenager that's following the same diet like the parent will inherit that disease. Therefore, we find we have the diseases of our grandparents. We inherit the disease. So it's not for the diabetics to avoid sugar alone. The entire society should cater for them because we're all one society. So when you have a function at home, you cannot have a function with just icing, sugar and cakes. You have to cater for the diabetics. So have a bread muffin, throw almond, dates. There's so many substitutes out there. Juicing. We should invest in juicing, mixing different types of fruit and veg. Good, nutritious juices, beetroot, carrot, orange, pineapple. Energizing drink. Super green juicing to mix spinach, avocado, lemon juice, pineapple, all pleasant tasting but very good for the body. It's called live juicing because the enzymes immediately benefits the body. So look for live juicing recipes out there. We find, and also children are inclined to fruits. You could use fruits for anything. You could make ice lollies out of fruits. You could make fruit salads, smoothies. The list goes on. So there isn't a reason why we have to conform to the same type of kusista mentality, excuse the pun. So we're not saying throw the dalchis and the kusistas away because it's a very emotional topic. There's some aunties and uncles that's very connected to the dalchi and the samosa. So we don't say throw it away. We say cut the buka table in half. So we have dalchis and samosas there, but we also have the whole wheat bread with tuna, mayo and salads. We have the fruit salad. We have the soup. We have the healthy snacks. And when you're eating like that, you're practicing Tiba because there's balance. So you're not clogging the arteries only, you're giving food that's medicinal. So the general rule is try to ensure that 80% of the diet is good, nutritious, homegrown food. And then the 20% eat whatever you feel like. That way you can balance it. Water. Something that in Cape Town we're still not appreciating, and this masjid is actually very instrumental in reminding us about the importance of water. It's needed for every process in the body. It's the ultimate cleansing drink. Why is it that Jannah is described by water? One of our highest aspirations is that we would love to drink from the hand of the Prophet ﷺ, from the pond of Kawthar. So it's telling us something, that water is part of our makeup. We're actually more water than anything else. If you were to stand up across your chest, that's water, that's you. You're actually water. The entire earth is surrounded in water. We were born in a state of water. We will return to the abode where there's abundance of water. So why are we neglecting water in this life? Prophet ﷺ described water as the best of drinks. Yet, we consider it to be secondary. So you go to events and there's all types of gassy cool drinks in a row, but there's no water to be found. And there's diabetics and everybody's looking for water. And the water is not only beneficial for the diabetics, it's needed for all of us. Tiba Nabawi teaches us that one of the most harmful illnesses for the body is constipation. The inability to rid waste from the body. We'll touch on it during the topic of elimination, but water is needed to facilitate waste. Remember, whenever the body holds back feces, it's considered to be filth, and the deen is all about cleansing the body from filth. So just like we cleanse the day away from sin, ensure that you have correct bowel movements. And the lack of water is one of the causes of incorrect bowel movements. For some people, if they say water is a bit boring, so you could add something to water. Fruit-infused water. Cut a couple of strawberries up and throw it in the water. Leave it overnight, it becomes flavored water. Berries, blackberries, pineapples, you can mix up all different fruits. It looks nice, it tastes nice. So there's various recipes that you could follow. Honey, without a doubt, is one of the best remedies. Famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ was where a person came to the Prophet ﷺ and mentioned that their brother is suffering from a stomach complaint, suffering from diarrhea. The Prophet ﷺ said, give him honey. The person came back and said that he's still suffering from the complaint. The Prophet ﷺ said, give him honey. Came back the third time, the Prophet told him, give him honey again. When he came back the fourth time, he said that the condition is cured. So from this, the ulama of Tib says that the Prophet ﷺ gave the honey in correct dosages, meaning that every type of food needs a specific dosage. So honey is a perfect remedy for stomach complaints, for indigestion, constipation, and for diarrhea. For diarrhea, a very effective traditional remedy, and I'm talking about the diarrhea that's linked to gastro, so the one that like the food poisoning, whereby the person suffers uncontrollable urges throughout the day for 1 to 2 days. That type of diarrhea, the remedy a perfect remedy that's used would be the powder, a teaspoon powdered of ginger, cinnamon, and jeera. So spices in your kitchen, ginger, cinnamon, and jeera powder mixed with 2 tablespoons of honey. When you consume that after every bowel movement, a half a teaspoon, it stops the diarrhea. It actually regulates the diarrhea. So whilst Western medicine would give you medication to stop it completely, traditional medicine allows it to carry on because there's a bug in the system that the body wants to get rid of. So we don't want to block the bug. If we block the bug, what happens? The bug multiplies somewhere else. So in that diarrheal mix, we'll see that ginger, cumin or jeera, and cinnamon has high antimicrobial properties, meaning they kill bugs. So that remedy is a very effective remedy, but you still regulate diarrhea, maintaining some of the energy. The Prophet also used to soak dates in water, and the water becomes a very energizing drink. For those people that suffer from fatigue and they struggle to gain weight, especially children, a good drink to give them would be dates soaked in milk. It's a very sweetened drink, and we find that can allow people to gain weight. But definitely, whenever you suffer from a condition where you're losing weight, seek medical attention. Whatever I talk about here, it's not to compromise or to be in place of a medical consultation. So what Tibba Nabawi doesn't promote is you're suffering from an illness condition and it's showing that it's getting severe, but you continuously taking one prophetic medicine saying, I believe this is going to work, I believe this is going to work. Because Tibba Nabawi is also about going to the professionals and not to live in denial, and also to seek help. To seek a cure is part of the sunnah. It is part of the medicine. To sit back and say, I have sabr with a condition is not tawakkul. A Bedouin asked the Prophet ﷺ, what do we do when we're stuck by illness? Do we sit back and have sabr, or do we look for the cure? The Prophet ﷺ said, look for the cure. So you look for the cure and then you have tawakkul. Meaning you have tawakkul throughout, but searching the cure is part of the medicine. So there's over enough research showing the benefits of water. That water can add radiance to the skin. It increases your energy levels. It improves the body's elimination qualities. It removes toxins from the blood. The way in which you drink water is also important. The sunnah, which promotes sitting down and drinking, means that the water will enter the body gradually. When you stand up and drink water in gulps, it means that it enters the stomach with harsh force. Prophet spoke against drinking out of bottles, gulping the water down. The sunnah is to have 3 sips. The Prophet spoke against breathing into the container. So meaning that you don't drink in such a way that you're breathing in the same container and inhaling that same carbon dioxide. So definitely studies have shown that there's a link between people's health and religion. And out of all the methods that the medical fraternity has tried to bring people closer to health, there is no better way than religion. Why? Because religious life provides us the manual to life. And when we approach health through the sunnah, it becomes lasting because we want to be better Muslims. It's attached to the dunya and to the akhirah. So definitely it has been shown that people's health improve when they practice the sunnah. And I end up for this ayah in the Quran where Allah says, eat and drink to your heart's content for the reward of your hard work. And this refers to when we enter Jannah, we will be given all these medicinal foods, prophetic foods. So Allah likens the bliss of Jannah to the concept of eating. And when we eat according to prophetic medicine, we will achieve that, inshallah. So this concludes my presentation or the section on Sunnah medicine. Next week we will start with the topic of emotions, and we'll look at how it's connected to our everyday life. I'll take some questions. Sheikh, you had a question earlier, or should I wait for the page? Did I answer the question? Okay. The book is again. Does someone mind getting the book from the lady? I notice the food topic always has the most questions, because the food is a favorite subject. Okay, I see there's some questions that pertains to cupping. We will do that in the class of elimination. Okay, the question is, can lemon water be taken every day if you suffer from low blood? So I take it that you have low blood pressure. Okay, lemon water has various medicinal values to it. Out of the body, the actual lemon is acidic. When you consume it, it becomes alkalinic. So most of our diets are very high in acid. And acid is the cause of inflammation in the body. So lemon water can be beneficial for certain people. In Tiba Nabawi, each food is recognized for its quality. So lemon is seen to be cold and dry, meaning it has a astringent quality, so it can dry out the body. So a person is suffering with low blood pressure, if they consume lemon water for too long, it wouldn't be as beneficial as it would for somebody with high blood pressure. So definitely when you consume any natural remedy, understand that in small doses it can have benefit, but for too long, I wouldn't recommend lemon water every day for someone with low blood pressure. For someone with low blood pressure, a good remedy would be live juicing. So to mix beetroot, oranges, pineapple, chard, which is like kale, white chard, green leafy vegetables. We find the Prophet ﷺ was also fond of chard. And in one narration, we find that Ali radiallahu anhu, he suffered from conjunctivitis, which is inflammation of the eyes, of the eyelids, and he was in the healing process. And the Prophet ﷺ and him, they were offered dates by a Sahaba. And the Prophet ﷺ told Ali not to eat the dates because he was busy healing. So if you were to look at it from any other type of modality, you wouldn't understand it. But from Tib, we know that the concept of inflammation is heat, and there's a lot of moisture. And dates is also heating and moisturizing. So when you consume a food that matches the illness, it worsens the illness. So the Prophet ﷺ asked the Sahaba to bring barley and chard instead, which is cooling. So there's another concept to Tiba Nabawi that I didn't fully explain because it requires long explanation. But ultimately, there's a concept of balancing foods. So the concept revolves around every illness having a quality, and there's foods that has opposite qualities. The question was, what is the Sunnah way of drinking water? I mentioned it, I'll repeat it again. Ideally to sit down, to drink the water in small sips, not more than 3 sips at a time, to consume water that's also conducive to your body temperature or body type. So what happens, we live in a society where we all have refrigerated drinks, but it's not conducive for everyone. So those individuals that have a thin, bony frame, that they have a lot of cold innate, meaning they can't handle the cold of winter, ideally they would have to consume room temperature water or lukewarm water. And you'll find for those individuals, lukewarm water will be more palatable, more quenching. So you find in the East, when it's extremely hot, they would drink tea. And people ask, why would they drink tea? The concept is that when you're extremely hot, when you drink tea, the body increases in heat, so the body pushes out extra heat. When you drink an ice cold beverage, it's a shock to the system. That's the reason why you feel it over here. So on an extremely hot day of 40 degrees, you grab an ice cold beverage because you want to get rid of this heat. When that beverage enters the mouth, the body wants to increase its heat to overcome that coldness because the body enjoys the ideal temperature of 37. So for that moment, you're experiencing cold, which feels good. But why is it that you're not quenched? Because the body's heat increases. So on a hot day, the ice cold beverages aren't the best. So for some body types, certain people that's very heated, they can tolerate it better. But there's certain individuals that cannot tolerate the coldness. And Tiba Nabawi also teaches about suiting foods to the body type. The question is black seed oil the same as black seeds? No, they are not the same. Black seed oil would be the oil extracted from the seeds. That's if it's authentic 100% black seed oil. It would mean that thousands of seeds were crushed or went through a distillation process whereby the oils is extracted. So if you were to crush 1,000 black seed, you'll get a few drops of oil, which means that oil is extremely potent and it shouldn't be consumed without medical advice. When I say medical advice, I mean from a trained person in herbal medicine, because not any doctor can give you advice on black seed oil without understanding the mechanisms of action. So black seed oil that's pure is extremely heating and it can be very harmful to your belly. So there's two types of black seed oil. You get one that's taken orally and you get one that can be applied on the skin as an oil. It's called the black seed muscle rub. So that will be beneficial for joint pain, muscle pain, for asthma because the vapors can be inhaled. Black seed can also be used for sinus congestion. So if you crush the seeds, a tablespoon of crushed black seeds, you add a cup of boiling water and you can inhale the fumes. Close the eyes and that also helps to dissolve mucus. Okay, that's all for now. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.